Good evening, Foxes fans, and welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses. And this is the match analysis show. Not yet calling it the match analysis show, but as Costa's brought up here in the comments, perhaps we'll do that in the future. But today, what a pleasant surprise. We've made a new transfer over the window and we've brought in Josh, AK Sportser, in for another match analysis. He's made a very promising debut, I've got to say, on his previous appearance on this show. So back by popular demand. Josh, talk to me. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, Anil. High standards to meet them tonight, but no, it should be interesting, won't it? It was a bit of more of an interesting game than the Everton one, so plenty to go into, I think, in terms of the first half, the second half as well. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. This game, I think you could say was a bit boring, but actually, in terms of the tactical battle, it was quite interesting. And I'll get to that in a second. So it had that kind of sort of 90s Serie A vibes of sort of two people playing chess. And I've got that. Just going to bring up a few comments here. Evening, Clibo. Evening, Costa. Chips, the main man, providing all the tech for us. Shout out to you. Evening, Sakuna. Costa says, hey, Josh. And Tommy K, the Forest fan, says, I suggest you watch the Forest tonight and see how it's done. I think we'll pass on that, but thanks for joining anyway. So without further ado, let's get on to it. And actually, this time round, I'm going to try my hand at a few animations in the way that I've done this. So after the show's done, let me know if you think this is good or bad. My dream one day is to defeat Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville with their stupid pen and everything like that. So we'll get to that. Now, just before we start, I did just want to say, though, thank you to everyone so much for this. 15,000 subs at the start of the year. Me and Locks, like, how many do you think we could get? And go, I reckon we could get to 5K by the end of the year. So absolutely blown past expectations. Thank you very much. And just on the show, here was a picture from Blue Tinted Glasses HQ a bit earlier. This was my reaction to hearing the news. So absolutely loving it. Thanks so much. Yeah, congrats on the 15K. We love it. Trying to get some more people. So, all right, let's get back to the match. Thanks so much, everyone. It finished 2-1 to Man United. It was a game where chances were few and far between. I think we did largely limit Man United, but I think they came onto it in the second half. And I think if you look at the stats, well, with 4 big chances, they probably did deserve to go through. But we've got to talk about one instant right away. Josh, can you tell me what is wrong with the picture that I'm showing you right now?
Half the team's offside, maybe, just by an absolute mile. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
This has got to be one of the worst decisions I've seen in football. I honestly can't believe it. You know, we'll have an entire segment to that right at the end, but I just want to get it right off the bat that linesman, are you having a laugh? I mean, forget VAR. I mean, he's literally standing there and he can see the line. Anyway, so we got robbed there. So let's talk about the team right from the off. So kind of interesting with the lineup. So here's Man United's lineup, and we know that Ruben Amorim plays this 3-4-3. Now, they've just signed a player for 21 million, I think it is, in the January. I wish we could do that. Patrick Dorgu. And he was supposed to be a left back or left wing back. And so what really surprised the Man United fans, and myself, I've got to say, is they played him as a right wing back. And I was like, huh? Why are they doing that when they've got Amad Diallo, who's normally such a good player? Well, they put him in the 10 position. They've also been experimenting with Kobbie Mainoo in one of the 10 positions. But what the Man United fans will tell you is like, we don't understand why Diego Dallo, who's right-footed, is playing on the left-hand side. So why was that? And then what was interesting from our side? Well, I'll tell you what. How about you? When you saw this team lineup, what did you make of it initially?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mix, wasn't it? It was a bit of the first team from week in, week out in the Prem, and then some players coming in, which I was quite happy to see. I think Thomas coming in at left back. I sure get onto it, but I thought he had a pretty decent game. Cody coming in as well. So I thought it was kind of what I expected, really. Obviously, Daka coming in for Vardy up top. I think we all would have liked to see the likes of Jeremy Mongo come on, etc. Potentially Steffi starting out over Ayew, but I think overall it was a solid team, and it's a team who allowed us to compete in the game. But I just don't think, I know I'll get onto it, but I don't think we had enough, firepower going forward really to really penetrate.
Absolutely, we're going to get to that. Well, that's all definitely true. I'm glad with the same ones using. I was actually glad that Daka got a start. I think Vardy was in need for rest. But I think definitely the thing that surprised us, although we didn't know this until the game started, is he actually swapped over Bobby de Cordova-Reid and Jordan Ayew's position, which was pretty interesting. And so this is the first thing that I wanted to kind of shout out. And it's interesting you mentioned Luke Thomas. Honestly, me and Josh don't go through this before the game, and I do that deliberately so I can get genuine reactions. But that's the first person he came to. So very interesting that you brought him up. So what I wanted to bring him up is that normally when we play as Leicester under Ruud, we attack, and it's James Justin on the right-hand side who's joining the attacks. But what was noticeable right early in the game is that actually we decided to go the other side. We decided to attack down the left-hand side. So you can see that Luke Thomas is pretty high up the pitch, and you can see that Justin's back here in the back three. And here you can see again, here we're pushing up a little bit further, and you can also see again that Luke Thomas, he's in line here with Bobby Reed, but JJ's nowhere to be seen. He's at the back. Here we've got like another chance. So El Khannouss is on the ball here. And just look how high Luke Thomas has pushed compared to the other kind of centre backs here. So that was definitely a deliberate ploy. And here's another example. So here, Luke Thomas isn't even in the shot right here. So this is the classic 3-2 shape that we normally build with. And Fass has played it out to Justin. Justin's gone for the ball over the top. Love a little bit of long ball every now and again. And here again, you can see this is just how high up Luke Thomas was pushing. He's in line with Jordan Ayew. Although, to be fair, I've got a feeling that my grandma could probably get in line with Jordan Ayew because he's not the fastest. And we'll get to that in a moment. So that's sort of one of the ways that we were doing it. And yeah, look, again, you can see he's pushing right up here so that Bobby Reed potentially could cross to him. So we were using him in a kind of offensive perspective. And why did we do that? Well, cast your mind back. This is the last time we went to Old Trafford. And do you know who is in charge of Manchester United when we played them this time?
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Ruud van Nistelrooy was in charge, and he made JJ look like this. He was absolutely fed up with Steve Cooper by the end. And if you cast your mind back, this was back on the 10th of November of last year, and this is a goal that Garnacho would score. And yeah, what was happening is that they basically exploited JJ time and time again, and they were playing the ball through to him here, and he was getting in through. So now, as it would happen, Garnacho in the end, I think, was the difference maker in this game. But what I'm saying is that I think that basically Van Nistelrooy knew that that was a weakness, and that's why he changed his team to attack on the left rather than the right, and that surprised Amorim. And so this is actually one of my favorite pictures of all time. I think this image goes pretty hard. It's the one of Messi and Ronaldo. They're playing chess with another, and that's what I'm saying. I think this game, that first half, to be honest, the whole match was a little bit dull. But I think there's a reason why it was dull. And I think it's because both teams cancelled one another out. So what I'm saying is this, right? Amorim, he put Dallo on the left-hand side because he thought that we were going to attack down the right-hand side. So he wanted to make sure that they had a bit more cover defensively. And then in the second half, he could probably be more offensive. So that's the reason why he put Patrick Dorgu on the right-hand side, because he thought we would probably play Victor Christensen or Koulibaly back there, and they'd be a defensive player, and we would be the ones, so they'd have more chance of attacking that side. But you see, because Ruud knew that that was our weakness, because he literally exploited it, he decided to build down the other side. So what you've basically got is that Ruben Amorim thought we were going to do something, but then Van Nistelrooy knew that he was going to do that thing and countered it the other way. So in the end, you've got kind of like these two sides kind of clashing each other out. So yeah, Ruud saw that weakness, so he decided to attack down the left-hand side. Now, what I do think is interesting is that he decides to go for your man there, Luke Thomas, because I would have thought, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised that we didn't start Koulibaly in this game. Just because I think it's a cup game. We didn't really care if we won or we lost. We might as well give him a try. He did come on later on, and I think he did okay, but I was a bit surprised by that. And so, yeah, we were using Thomas instead of Christensen. And actually, I've noticed that every time we do play Luke Thomas, he is the one that joins in the attack. So there you go. There's a fun fact for you. It seems that he's the reason that when he puts him in the team is because he wants to attack down that side. And when he does that, that's why he puts Ayew. He swaps the position because Ayew drifts in. So keep an eye on that in the future if we go for that kind of lineup. But as I said, I think that's one of the reasons why that first half, I think if you were a neutral watching that game, you might be a bit like, this is a bit boring. Yeah. So we're going to get to it. So now I'm going to talk about Bouba Soumare. Now, this is interesting. This was taken from our match ratings. And he only got 5.8 Bouba Soumare, which I think was a bit harsh on him, to say the least, because here are his stats. And you can see that his stats are pretty amazing, right? 5 tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 clearances, won the aerial duels, lots of ground duels, and had the pretty successful passing accuracy. So he was doing a lot of good. But I think, do you know what? Before I kind of give you my opinion, with Bouba Soumare this season, Josh, how do you rate him? What do you think about him as a player?
It's tough, really. I think it's a lot dependent on who's next to him. I think when he's alongside Wilf, he seems to perform very well. And I think a reason why Leicester had an improved performance is Wilfred Ndidi, which I know we'll move on to. But I think Soumare's been pretty reasonable, to be fair, so far this season. Look, before the season started, I don't think any of us really expected him to play much of a part. he came in, he had that Ipswich performance away where he pretty much, won us obviously scored the goal later on, obviously winning the ball back, etc. And I think he's done all right, to be fair. He's not the type of player who's going to score a goal. He's not the type of player to provide that final pass, is he? But I think for someone at our level, in the position we are, fighting relegation, playing him alongside someone like Ndidi to kind of destroy us, and obviously I think having Ndidi next to him gives him less defensive responsibilities as well, so he can be a bit more expressive. I think it's a partnership which I think we have to go with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think this is a good comment from Tony. Booba, Mr. Inconsistent. And yeah, I think for me, what I find is interesting about Booba Soumare is sometimes I look at him and I think he's like just a few things away from being a top class box-to-box player. But sometimes I look at him and I think he's just a few things away from being a championship reject. It's like he's right on the balance. Like his career could go either way, which is probably why he's playing for a relegation struggle team. So I think one of the reasons why he was getting a bit of flack for us, and by the way, everyone said that Josh loved a bit of boobs. I don't agree with you. And, yeah, the Junior Lewis one is a good one. He goes from Yaya Toure to Junior Lewis in a couple of games. Sometimes they've been the same game because there's so much. You'll see he was actually heavily involved in the goal that we scored. But here's a good sample. So here I've circled him here. And again, we're going to play the ball back here. It's gone actually to Daka. Daka's going to play it back to him. He's got the ball here. And you can see what he's going for. So he's going for this first time ball and he's going to try and find Bilal. But unfortunately, he just gives it straight away to a Man United player. And I think in the early stages of this game, he was a bit guilty of that. So I think he was actually winning the ball back pretty well. I think he was actually doing the simple passes quite well, but like he couldn't quite make the attack flow. And you'll notice that I've got an example in the second half of that as well, where sometimes I feel like if he could just pick out the right pass at the right time, he would be so lethal. And that's like the thing he needs to add to his game. But I think to be fair, at least he's kind of like, that is a good ball if you can make it happen, but he just hasn't executed it. So like I say, I would actually love to work with Booba Soumare, because I think he could be a player that could be turned into an absolute revelation, because the fact that he's got better tackling stats in this game than Wilfred Ndidi, I think is pretty impressive. And he's definitely got a better range of passing, but it's just that decision making. But that will come. So just something that I wanted to call out. Now, I'm going to move on to Luke Thomas. Now, I think that's also a bit of a harsh rating that he got given a 4.8 there. And I think it's because people didn't understand that he was in that kind of more attacking role. But I think, to be fair, this is maybe one of the reasons why he was getting a little bit kind of like the fans are against him. So here's a simple ball from Man United. They're going to go for this fast diagonal. And Luke Thomas was going to be joining the attack, but he's caught. And this is the problem with our system. And I've got to say, I'm not a big fan of the system that we need. I'm just going to bring up a comment there that talks about that. So in this case, the ball's played over his head. And it's a bit lucky because this ball was going out. But because this is Patrick Dorgu and he's fast and is obviously here to Keane making his debut, he actually keeps it in. And I mean, I'll say it again, what is wrong with this picture, Josh, if you're a Leicester fan?
Bit all over the place, aren't we?
Yeah, well, not just a bit all over the place, but you've got two men back and potentially three attacking. And it's this system. So it's kind of an interesting thing here. Now, luckily, what happens is that Okoli, and this is the big thing about having pace and why I feel he's got to be in the team. Because if that's Vestergaard, we actually could be all over already. Luckily, Okoli deals with it and does well. But that's why I think he got it. But I mean, here, there's some comments here and I agree. So JB, the attacking fullback always get exploited. Yes, that's exactly it. So JC, that's exactly my point, is that's what I don't like about Rude's system. It's like you're kind of taking a risk without, for me, that much of a benefit. Why did he take Thomas off? In the few games I've seen him play this season, he's not only been solid, he progresses the ball. Now we're short of wingers at the times, change formation, but he can't see it. We can talk about that. I think he was okay, Thomas, but I don't think he's offered enough there in either attack or defense, although I'm not going to say that it's his fault. I think that's the problem with the system. Like for me, you should play this system if you've got like a genuine top class. Like remember Ricardo in 2019? Yeah. If you have a player like that, I would play a system like this because he would be absolutely lethal. But for example, I wouldn't play the Ricardo of today in that position because I don't think he's as fast.
Exactly. Here's another comment. Just to jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's exactly that though, because if you're going to play that system, you've got, just like I said, you've got to have the end product there. And I think now we're kind of playing in half. Like you've got the slight threat, but then you've got threat the other way. So I think with Thomas, I think defensively, I don't know he made that mistake, but I did notice he was getting extremely tight to the winger as well, which I was a big fan of. I think sometimes we just invite the pressure on us a bit too much. So I didn't mind that from Thomas, and I'd rather him, go for the ball like that, press high, and then obviously he's going to make the odd mistake here and there. But we're just constantly sitting back and getting the pressure on us, it's only going to result in goals. And that's why I think we did have a bit more stability in the first half, because I think we were a lot more tight in terms of the press as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are definitely gaps appearing in that second half. Good comment here as well. The system used by Ruud needs crisp passing because when our defensive setup wants to push forward, our midfield and forwards don't connect up. Exactly. And that's why I think Soumare, even though he's doing a lot of the basics good, because he couldn't connect that pass with Khannouss, it kind of like let us broke down. JC, yeah, we need a Kohli's pace in the system. It helps on transitions. Absolutely agree. Neil says, should I email Ruud? Absolutely. Ruud Van Nistelrooy at LeicesterCity.com, I'm guessing. Another good comment from Sebastian. We should follow Andrew's approach by prioritizing short passes to create space effectively. I think we do try and do that, although, well, we do go long a little bit too, but I think be a bit careful of Ange because he's not doing too well at the moment either, is he? So be careful. Anyway, Okoli in his pace does really well and he gets it there. So what was interesting is that when we started the game, actually, Ndidi was on the right-hand side to protect Justin and Soumare was on the left-hand side. But again, and this is one thing I think I do give a lot of respect to Ruud, because I think this is the sort of thing that Cooper would not do, but I've definitely noticed that Van Nistelrooy will do. So because he's noticed that Dorgu's attacking Luke Thomas, he's like, I need to give him a bit more protection because I'm still asking him to go forward and it's important that he does. So you can see here that what he's done, he's actually swapped over Ndidi and Soumare's position to kind of get it here. But now here's where the sort of tactical game comes in, right? Because obviously Ruben Amorim will have noticed this as well. It's like, oh, hello, he's moved the defensive midfielder over to one side. That could be useful information for the future, which we'll get to. But anyway, that was Van Nistelrooy's decision. He thought, okay, Dorgu had actually won a dangerous free kick there as well. So he wanted to give Luke Thomas a bit more support, which is understandable. Now, speaking of Wilfred Ndidi, well, what did you make of him in this game, Josh?
I thought he was really good. Considering it was his first game back for us as well, I thought he was. I don't know, he didn't really set the world alight, but we just looked far more secure. And I think from a player in his position, when you don't really notice him too much, that means he's doing well. So I just think he calms the team down. He's got a bit of a presence. He's got experience. It's just what we need, don't we? And we saw it in Ruud's first few games when we actually played all right. You know, him alongside Buba in midfield. I know we conceded lots of shots, but we did look far more stable, I think, across the whole pitch, really. Even getting the ball and progressing it forward a little bit as well.
Absolutely, totally agree. Yeah, the way that I would liken it to is like, imagine it like, I don't know, you're doing a school play or something and you're feeling a bit nervous and you just look out into the crowd and it's like it's your dad sitting there just to make you feel a bit calm. There's someone that you can look to. Well, instead of your dad, it's a tall Nigerian guy that's good at tackling and good at football, and it's Wilfred Ndidi. So I feel he was like really the anchor, and it was noticeable that players around him played much better because he was there. So let's talk about the importance of Wilfred Ndidi. What he really gives you, I think, is he's got his physicality, especially his aerial dominance. He's also good at winning the ball. And I do think although he gives the ball away on occasion, he's good at the simple passes. There is also one thing I'm going to show you, though, that was absolutely ridiculous from Wilf. Sometimes he pulls off these moments of magic. So here, Okoli's won the header. Which again, I think is a good thing in a team because Vestergaard's not the best at winning the headers. It's actually come to Soumare, and Soumare's played it to Ndidi. But between these two, you can see that they're connecting the dots. And Man United on the attack, between these three, were able to maintain the ball and build our attack. And you might think, well, okay, that doesn't look that particularly impressive. But here's the thing. If that's Harry Winks there, or as we saw in the second half, or Ollie Skip, is that we'd probably lose the ball there. And therefore, the opposition would be on the attack. So at this point in time, we're able to get out of pressure, win the ball back, and therefore start our attack. That's the importance of Wilfred Ndidi. Here's some more examples here. So here he gets given the ball here. And I want to talk about his physicality. So something that I think that Harry Winks has struggled with pretty badly in this season is that he gets hustled off the ball or he gets bullied because people are targeting when they know him. You often see that as soon as he receives the ball, the opposition is told to start pressing him in 2s and 3s. So in this case, they're going to try and do that, Man United. But, you know, they have to sandwich him to the floor because indeed he's strong and he's got the physicality. And the referee gave them like a bit of a talking to here. So that was the importance of him. And then more than that, okay, there's also some other things. That this, I don't know if you caught this, but the ball's going to go to him. And watch this in slow-mo. Obviously, I can't show a clip. But he gets the ball and he does this roulette on the ball to go past two players. Totally unnecessary. Just to pass it to Okoli. Agree so with unnatural. You, Jack, the final whistle. Yeah, go on, Josh.
I was going to say, Wolf doing any skill just looks so unnatural, doesn't it? But it does work with his long legs.
Wow, exactly. This is like, do you remember he did that little drop of the shoulder when he scored that goal against Southampton? He's got these touches in him. So yeah, let's just appreciate that from Wilf. What about that for the little roulette? Absolutely brilliant there to get out of play. Right. So he was important to the team. I think another person that, again, didn't get a good rating, but I want to give him some shout is Patson Daka. Now, Daka is definitely, compared to Vardy, nowhere near as good as a finisher. But the thing is that sometimes like your role in the team is important. And I think that one of the big things of this particular lineup is that with Ndidi, you've got more physicality in midfield. With Okoli at the back, you've got pace at the back. And with Daka at the top, you've also got more pace. So it's giving you options that you didn't have before. And that means that you can stretch the game at times. So I'm going to show you a few examples of this. So here, the midfield combining. Soumare's got the ball. This is actually where he's doing good. And he's going to go on the charge. And here I've got Daka, and I've highlighted the run that he's going to make here. Here on the attack as well, you can see you've got 4 men moving forwards all at the same time. And here Soumare can drop in to find Daka. And you can see, because he's fast, he's way in front of everyone else on the kind of team. So in this particular example, maybe it doesn't look all that flashy. You can see that he draws the ball out here. There's no one really to support him. But now, again, a better example, this was sort of like the theme of the game, is it's come to Ndidi here. He's going to play it to Justin. And an option that we used to have, but don't really have these days because Vardy's getting on a bit, is just a simple ball over the top. So he's played the ball over the top. I've isolated Daka here, and you can see that Daka is actually 2-on-1 against him. So really, he should have no chance of getting this ball. But because he's fast and he's tenacious, he actually gets to the ball first. And because he's going to get to the ball first, it's going to actually engineer a chance out of nothing. So here we've got Jordan Ayew, and Ayew is going to be making an attack up the other side. And he's going to lay it off to Jordan Ayew. Now, the only thing I will say here is that this shows you sort of Ayew's lack of pace. Because if we had a really fast team, if that was Ndidi or Fatawu, what I'd really want to see this player is I'd want to see them here. And you can see that if he was here and the ball was laid off to him, it would be you might even be a guaranteed goal at that point. So instead, because he's slow and he's further back, he doesn't get to do that. Now, to be fair to Jordan Ayew, he does actually go for a really nice strike. He hits the target, he hits it hard, and he does test the keeper. But I've got to say, from that position to score, you know, it's got to be a worldie. I mean, he's doing everything right. Look, he's hit it to the top corner, but even that's not enough. So point is, though, is that Daka is offering you that. That's, you know, he didn't really get a shooting opportunity in the game, but simply that pace on the break means that defenders have to be a bit careful. If they're trying to play a high line, it's always going to be in their mind. It gives you an easy get out sometimes. Just smash it long. You're allowed to do it. So something to think about.
Yeah, I think Daka was quite good in terms of with his hold up play as well. Obviously, most of the time he's a bit, 2-footed. His touch isn't great, but I thought on Friday he's actually quite good with the ball to his feet as well when he offloaded it. And just like you mentioned there, in terms of the pass to Ayew, you did that a few times to link the play, maybe potentially going back to Wolf or something as well. So I don't think Daka was too bad. And I think you saw a massive difference when Daka gone, just as you mentioned, in terms of stretching that game. And I think I know we'll get onto it, but I think that's what really that's what cost us really in that second half, because we really didn't have any output at all.
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons for that, but I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if he's 1-on-1 Daka, you never really back him. I don't know about you. That's sort of my thing. Easy as Baz has mentioned, Monga there instead of Jordan Ayew. Wouldn't mind you. And Gohan, your comment in your system will stay tuned for the end, because we're actually going to talk about exactly what you're talking about there. So, all right, I'm going to talk about Jordan Ayew, and he got given a 4. So what are your thoughts on just Jordan Ayew in general, Josh? Because he's definitely not probably the first choice signing that a lot of people had made in the summer, but we have ended up with him, and he's getting a lot of game time, even over Facundo Buonanotte at the moment.
Yeah, he's one of Ruud's favourites, isn't it? I think that's the best way to put it. But I can see why. Obviously, he's got bags of experience. He's a player who I guess he can rely upon, but yeah, he's not really for me. I'd much rather see a winger like Steffi or someone like Buonanotte play. Saying that, I think Buonanotte has been really poor in the last couple of weeks, especially I say under Van Nistelrooy as a whole, really. So I can see why Ayew is starting. And in fairness to him, I don't think he was awful. I think a 4 is pretty harsh from Friday night. I don't think he was awful, but yeah, he's good at linking the play. But in terms of winger, when we do go forward, and when we go forward, it's on the odd occasion. You want someone there to be there to finish and there to take a man on, and he's not providing that. So he's a good player to help transition as kind of a bit part player. But when it comes to that final third, I just think A, he's probably not there, or B, he makes the wrong decision.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. What's up with Ndidi being benched? Not sure, but it does feel like Ruud's had a go about him in terms of his lifestyle. Is a sort of current rumor mill. We can come to that a little bit later. But yeah, I think the biggest problem with Ayew, and it's interesting that Costa calls him the turtle, and I kind of agree with him, is he slows the game down. And I think this is a massive detriment. to our entire system. There's definitely some things that he does that are good, and we're going to come to that a bit later. But I think it's not just me. I see it in chat every week, especially on the instant match reaction. Everyone's just like, if Jordan Ayew could choose between saving his mum or passing the ball backwards, you know what choice he's going to make every time. That's a sort of famous comment that's come up. So here, he's got the ball. You can see that Luke Thomas, as the auxiliary winger, he started as a fullback and he's pushing forward. He's busted the gut. Like, he's almost in line with Daka to provide an attacking option. So if this was me, I would want to make like a clever forward pass, maybe try and get Thomas in so he can make a cross. He's on the ball. Where do you think he's going to pass, Josh?
You go back from there. Yeah.
There you go. There's the classic. There's the classic. And you can almost see that is a man that is depressed. He's like, are you serious? Have I just run my ass 60 yards up the field for this guy to turn back? Like, at least let him get to the byline and win a corner. Like, Jordan Ayew does this so many times. It's really, really frustrating. And I don't know why he does that. He can, just use your teammates, right? I get it that he's not going to be someone that beats his man one-on-one too often, but it's not about that. It's about, using the ball. So are you serious? Exactly. Really, really annoyed. So yeah, he ends up passing it back. Okay, whatever, it goes back. Now, someone who does not pass the ball back, though, of course, is the Moroccan Messi. So what have you made of Bilal recently? Because surely this is someone that gets you out of your seat.
Yeah, I think he's a fan favourite, isn't he? I think he's been my favourite player in recent weeks. And the thing I like about Bilal, we mentioned it a bit earlier about Soumare playing them attacking balls. I don't mind if they play the attacking balls, as long as they got the right intention. Yes, it's not going to come off every single time. He reminds me of someone like Maddison. Like he's trying to play them balls in behind. It's not going to work every single time, but when it does work, it's going to probably result in a goal. And obviously, he's got confidence right now. Has Bilal? He's very tricky on the ball, and I think if we had 2 Bilals or maybe 3 Bilals, we'd look a lot better going forward. But sadly, we've only got 1 Bilal right now. So It's a shame. But obviously, under Van Nistelrooy, obviously that Tottenham game. But even so, he's had multiple decent performances. And I think if you had some better attackers around him, someone who's a lot faster than Ayew, who doesn't go back every time, I think would flourish, because he seems to be doing a lot of things on himself right now, then gets the ball and then the attack breaks down. So he must be frustrated, really.
Absolutely. I will say one thing. I think it's so impressive as well that he tends to turn up against the big teams. Like, he played very well against Man City. He scored a really good goal against Man United in the cup previously. He had another very good game today. Like, he wants that big move. Hopefully he doesn't want it too soon, but I would be surprised if he doesn't get it eventually, because I think Maddison joined us when he was 23 years old. Bilal joined us when he was 20, and he's definitely better than Maddison was in that first season. We were a much more stable team back then too. And of course, Maddison, look, he was one of my favorite players when he had him. So let's just enjoy some of this Moroccan magic, because he was cooking up an absolute treat here. So here he is on the wing here, and they're trying to do the sort of defensive strategy where he's got nowhere to go and force him onto the byline. But look at that. Even though he's in this position, he's pirouetting, he's turning, and the audacity of this, he's got 2 men with him, and he just inside of the back of the heel, plays the ball out, keeps us on the attack. So really good. He can win the ball back. He's good under pressure. He's creative. He does things that you don't expect. And of course, I think that the first goal was largely down to him. So let's take a look at that. But I will say there's a few people involved here. So the ball gets played long by Mads here. And this is the one thing I've got to say about Jordan Ayew. So this is the reason why he is in the team. Just so you know, I would not start Jordan Ayew. But as you know, he's Ruud van Nistelrooy's favourite. Ball gets played long, and Ayew does actually win it. He is actually pretty good in the air at winning it or holding it and playing it somewhere. So he does get it. He plays it back. He plays it in here. And Soumare, this is something that he's really added it to his game this season. He's winning the ball up a lot more, and he's also winning the ball high quite frequently. And I think it's because he's got his mate here. So he knows that even if he loses the ball, someone's there to back him up, which is really, really good. So Soumare gets the ball. It's sort of a bit of a 50-50, but he ends up winning a ball, and he's going to go for this pass to Bilal. And those two really work well together. So now we've got Khannouss on the ball. Also keep a little eye out on Ndidi, who, despite the fact that he was supposed to be the linchpin here, now knows the time to go. And yeah, this I just absolutely love. So again, just appreciate the slow-mo. Unfortunately, I can't do the video. Gets the thing there. Look at that. Little hop. Plays. Oh, I love that. That is so creative against Lenny Yoro. Does that. Beats him. Yoro is completely bamboozled. You would be. Keep an eye now on Ndidi. Here's the run again. So Bilal's going to play his way down the side. He's got there, and here's the pass. You can see it to Ndidi. And this is great that he's made the run, because this is the thing. Is Man United, if you look at it defensively, they're pretty well set up, right? They're outnumbering us. They've got people in the right positions, but it's this late box run that's really important. Khannouss is going to play it in. Now, this is classic Ndidi. This, I have to say, is the one thing he could add to his game, because really, if he just hits that into either corner, it's a guaranteed goal. But to be fair, he's done the hard work. He supported the attack. He's got the shot on target. He's tested the keeper. It ricochets off. Bobby de Cordova-Reid doesn't know too much about it. Who cares? Comes up his head, and we get the goal 1-0. So that was great play. But yeah, I think that was the best of our team. So actually, Ayew, to be fair, wins the aerial ball. Soumare wins the ball up high, is very tenacious, gives it to Blau. He's got that creativity and magic to make something happen. And indeed, using his box-to-box power, managed to get in and get the goal. And Bobby Reid, right place at the right time. So that's good to see. Now, there's only sort of... He was really good, Bilal, and I don't blame him necessarily for doing this in the second half, but there was probably one negative thing that I would say. So here, I think here again is this, yeah, of course, who's going to win the ball back? It's Wilfred Ndidi. That's what he's in the team there for. And it's going to drop to Patson Daka. And you can see now, everyone knows it's our time to attack. So Daka's got the ball, and he's going to play it into El Khannouss. Here's El Khannouss on the ball, and now you've got Bobby Reid here. You've also got Patson Daka making the attack. So he gets to this point, and this is what I think he should have done, because I think he's got the quality to do this. Bobby Reid's going to bend his run in here. And I thought that El Khannouss, if he just played one of those sort of nice balls in there, Bobby Reid would literally have a tap in. But instead, he goes for the Hollywood, and he's going to try and curl it into the bottom left-hand corner, which is fair enough. I suppose, you know, given how good you are, you're entitled to do it. But that's maybe his one weakness in his game, is that I'd say compared to Maddison, he's less likely to sort of do that. I think this is something that as the years go by, he'll probably naturally improve. And I have seen him score good goals, but maybe there he's been a little bit greedy. But I think your number 10, you kind of expect them to sort of be a little bit like that. So look, at the end of the first half, it was probably a pretty dull match to watch, I thought, but it was good that we got the goal. But I think, to be fair, I mean, look at that. Man United, they had just 2 shots, no big chances. We had more shots, and we'd made the big chance, and we'd scored. So at the end of the day, if you're going away and you haven't got necessarily your strongest team out there, you can't really see too much further than that. So that was a good half of football. More of the same, please, in a second. What would happen? But coming into the second half, as I mentioned earlier, and I have to give him some respect, it'd be interesting to see how he does long-term, Ruben Amorim. But at Sporting, I think he was doing a very good job with that team. How long it will take him, will he be given the chance? I don't know. But the thing that he noticed is he did see what Ruud was doing with the attack. So he decided to make the change, and he changed Dorgu and he put on Garnacho. And sort of immediately, these were some of the big differences. He also decided to change Amad Diallo's position too. So here you can see that you've actually got Kobbie Mainoo's playing as a 10. He actually put Garnacho as the other 10, not as the wing back. So Dallo is still playing as a wing back here. And he actually changed Amad from being the right-sided number 10 to being the right wing back, which is an interesting choice. So here's how their team now lined up. You got Garnacho here, move Kobbie Mainoo over here. I think he had a pretty anonymous game. Dallo's still on the left, and now you've got Amad on the right. And that's kind of giving you the dual threat that they've got fast, pacey players perhaps on both sides. But he's done this because this means that because he knows that Justin is sitting back, he's going to put the more offensive player to try and run at him. Whereas on this side, because he's going to have the player pushing up, he feels that Amad's still got the kind of possibility. So he's tweaked his team, and that's pretty clever to kind of do that. Why McAteer? We'll come to that in a moment. So the issue is, and we saw this in the previous couple of games against Man United, is that Garnacho, he has Justin on toast. It's funny, I don't think the Man United fans really think that much of Garnacho. I think he almost got sold to Napoli for something like 70 million in the window. But there's something there, especially for a kid. He's got a dodgy haircut, but here's an example. He gets the ball here. Justin's tight on him. And because he beats him, he's in acres here now, space, right? And he's going to make a run. Now, I think that his end product isn't the best. You would also notice that, I think, to be fair to Ruud, he quickly realised that Garnacho was here. So again, he's shifted Ndidi's side again. So if you remember in the first half, because they were attacking down the other side, he moved Ndidi and Soumare over. It's almost a bit like how you said you need 2 Bilals. Do you need 2 Ndidis? I don't think you could get away with 2 Ndidis, to be honest with you, because I don't think their passing would be good enough. But it's notable that if they're better down one side, Ruud is moving Wolf around to try and give him some more support. So here's Garnacho on the ball. He's going to go for the cutback here. And to be fair, it's actually Soumare this time. So again, Soumare having a good game. And yeah, poor positionally by JJ. Well, that's the thing. And that's the thing that many teams are trying to take advantage of. And it does work. And again, it's a little bit down to our system. Why he's pushing up so high as well has got to be questioned, because we're supposed to be attacking down the other side. So I think it's something we've got to watch out for. And of course, Then at one point, Ndidi goes off and on comes Harry Winks. Now, we're going to talk about that in more detail a bit later. I've got an entire section about Harry Winks, who I think it's fair to say didn't have the best game, but we'll come to that in just a second. So just going to give you some more examples, again, of like JJ versus Garnacho. Here he is again. The ball kind of breaks in the middle. I think this is Bruno on the ball. No, not Bruno, to Ugarte even. And he's going to play the ball through here and the arrow pointing out. And look, again, Garnacho, he's got the beating. Look, he's the furthest man forward now, beats all 5 of this Leicester defence. He's through. And, well, here's what happens if you remember this instance. He's going to go for the shot. I actually think that Wout Faes doesn't get enough credit here because he's actually made up a lot of ground here. I mean, look, he's quite far behind the ball and he gets a block in. But the block ricochets off and it looks like for all the world that this is 1-1. But what happens? This guy. So again, if this is Vestergaard, never in a month of Sundays is this getting back here. But fair play to him. He gets back. I mean, look at that. Look at his positioning on the floor. And fantastic clearance. And I'm sure all of us fans, I don't know about you, but I loved seeing this. He was going absolutely mental like he scored the goal. I don't think we see that enough. I think that's definitely Vestergaard. He strikes me as one of those players that he doesn't really enjoy defending. I think that's why he backs out of challenges and stuff like that. But that was brilliant to sort of say there. And yeah, Caleb here, great comment. Think of how bad this game could have gotten with Vestergaard instead of Okoli. With JJ and Luke getting beat on the wings. Absolutely. So that's why I feel that Okoli is probably going to have to stay in the team because if Ruud wants to push up high with these players, you've got to have that pace at the back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was absolutely brilliant. But the warning signs were there. So I've just shown you a few examples. And eventually they get their goals. This is Joshua Zirkzee now, who's come on for Mainu, who I think basically was anonymous. It's funny, I don't think Zirkzee did that much, but the one thing he did do was he scored, to be fair to him. Right place, right time. But again, who's the danger man? It's Garnacho. He's on the ball here, left wing. Even though he's a 10, he's drifting out. Now, what I want to say, to give JJ some credit, right, is that he definitely wasn't doing the best against Garnacho. And one reason for that is that they were 2v1ing him. But it wasn't just JJ. So here you can see that we've actually got a 2-on-1 versus Garnacho, and it's Bobby Reid and El Khannouss, right? So we should really be able to stop him from getting in, but we don't. And he gets in, he puts the ball through. It actually comes here. I think who's this here? Is this Højlund? Højlund tries to strike it. It actually comes off Wout Faes. This is a bit unlucky, and it ricochets straight back out to Zirkzee. So, you know, that's unfortunate because if you see, we're quite well covered here. And if that goes the other side, for example, they don't score. But it just so happens to ricochet to him, and it goes in the back of the net. But like I say, I feel like it had been coming. You could see it. And once again, it's now 1-1, but it continues to be Garnacho who's the danger man. So again, this is actually Winks now on the pitch, and we're going to come to this in a moment. Loses out again, comes to Højlund here. Højlund's going to play him in. And again, look with the positional things. And nothing came of this particular attack, but again, it was showing you what their game plan was. Here's another one. This is just a long ball from Maguire. It actually goes to Dalot now. So now I think Ruben Amorim really noticed this. And he didn't just go for Garnacho against Justin, but he told Dalot to push up as well. Like, Leicester cannot handle you guys. Just push up. Don't worry about the back. Just attack them. They can't get out. And, well, this is the main reason why, and we'll come to him in a moment. But Harry Winks didn't really do any favours in terms of doing that. So it comes to Dalot. He's going to play it back. That time it didn't go to anything, but then just a minute later, they repeat the same trick. It does go to Garnacho. He cuts in and he goes for a shot. Now, luckily, the shot is high, wide and handsome, right? But again, the threat was there. I would say, though, because we're literally playing Man United, I think, again this month. So, Ruud, if someone at Leicester is watching this, but show Garnacho inside. That's my top tip. Right, if you let him go to the outside, he's actually got end product and he's delivering a good ball in. But if you get him cut in, so far, I haven't seen him cut in too well and hit it with his right. So maybe something we should think about. You normally wouldn't do that, but in this case, it kind of is there. Adam Ginger, with I think the JJ hate is really harsh, even for most of the season. I think it's been the system that's been leaving him so exposed. Yep, we've actually said that quite a few times. That although there has been some times where he's not best, positionally, set. A lot of the times it's pretty bad. But again, here, this literally kind of proves your point again. So because he's been asked to push up, it's a simple ball over the top. It's going to come to Dalot. He's still defending, but you can see Garnacho is going to come into support. Here, look, he's got a 2v1. We've seen this all season long. We saw it with Steve Cooper as well. If you're JJ here, it's a horrible position because you have to stick to this man, which means that you're going to look stupid when the inevitable happens. Well, and this time gets played back. But if I got played to Garnacho, he'd be able to cut across. So, it shows the flaw of the system. And one more time, here's the two of them combining again. Garnacho's played it into Dalot. Dalot's going to play it back into him. He's through. And luckily, well, he's showing him on his right, and luckily he doesn't score. But again, they're just
far
making
too easy. Yeah.
well, exactly, and that's what in a space of like this is 78 minutes. He's only been on for like 40 minutes at this point, Garnacho, and he could have scored like 3 or 4.
That's the thing, though. It's just it comes from the midfield as well. I think though, because there's so much space to find the pass. I mean, if you go a few slides back, there's such a huge gap between the midfield and the defense. Even on that one, the one, it's like ridiculous, isn't it? But yeah, it's a shame for JJ there, isn't it? Because he's kind of stuck in two minds, especially when he's got 2 against him, whether you show him inside or out, just like Anil's been saying. And what can you really do? And then obviously, I know we're going to talk about it. You ideally want your centre, your defensive midfielders to kind of tuck in and help, and they weren't there. So yeah, I think JJ was very much left out to dry, weren't he? And it's a shame though, because we couldn't really do too much about it because the changes were already made. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what Ruud did decide to do is he actually decided to take off Bobby Reed and put Casey McAteer on at this point because I think he realized that he needed a bit more help, especially in the defensive phase of the game. But he wasn't really up to it either. I mean, as I've said, I just don't think we should be playing this system because this is what happens against you, right? You don't need to commit that. Like you could say it would blunt our attack, but our attack was pretty blunt anyway, to be honest with you. So there's lots to say. Okay, so I've been talking about it a lot, but in the instant match reaction, Harry Winks, he got given a 3 out of 10. Now, when I was watching this game back again, I have to say for the first 10 minutes that he was on, it was actually pretty good, which is someone that a channel member Conscious said. But towards the end, I've got to say, as my comment here says, Winks falls apart. Basically, he stopped us. What we did in the first half was we were able to receive the ball and build out and make something happen. What was happening in this half is that notice how I haven't shown you anything that Leicester have created at this point in time because we just couldn't get going. And he was one of the big reasons why. And I was extremely disappointed because, okay, Winks, I get it, right? You're not going to win a duel against someone who's taller and stronger than you, right? But you're supposed to be the most calm on the ball and our best passer of the ball in that position. And he just wasn't in this particular game. So here the ball's come to him. This is a bit of a physical battle. He's going to lose the ball here to Xerxes. Again, going for it. I feel that if this is Soumare or Ndidi, they'd do better than this. It's just kind of not physical enough. It means Man United can get the ball and they can play the ball forward. Here's a little bit later on again. He's either circled him under the ball. He gets the ball. He tries to play it forward. And all he does, he just gives it straight away to Bruno. Not cool and calm on the ball. This, I think, is the worst, the most egregious of his crimes. He gets the ball here. He actually initially does well to get the ball, spin around, observe the situation. He's going to look up. So he's got plenty of time to pick his pass, but he dawdles on it. He gets robbed, and now Man United are on the attack. And you just can't do that, Winks. I mean, here, you've got an easy pass that you could slot to Casey McAteer there. You've got a fresh player as well there, so just not there. So loses the ball there. Again, puts Man United on the attack. Here's another one where he's there going for the 50-50, doesn't do anything. The ball goes over the top. Bruno's in, and luckily for him, he gets bailed out of trouble by Soumare in this particular example. So yeah, Winks, he's been poor, I think, all season long, to be actually with you, Josh. What did you think about Winks this season? Because he was one of our best players last season.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I think as a whole, he's been quite poor. I just think Winks is suited to the team who simply has the ball. Obviously, he played for Tottenham. People will be thinking, well, he played for Tottenham, surely he can play at Leicester down towards the bottom. But Tottenham just had more of the ball. When I think in a team who's played on transitions like Leicester, he's just not the type of player. He can play the good bounce pass, etc., to kind of get us going initially. But especially in this type of game, away at just say traditional Big Six team, obviously Man United are very poor. But even so, we are sitting back in this scenario. We're trying to counter, and the balls should just like Anil showed you on the screenshots there. So many seemingly obvious passes, and he's kind of dawdled on the ball. And obviously, you don't have as much time at this level than you did last season in the Championship. Because last season, in my opinion, he was one of our best players, really, alongside Ricky. But this season, he's never really got going. He's played all right at times, but yeah, I just think the Premier League and playing for a team who's scrapping like Leicester, I think a player of his stature, his ability in terms of his physicality, is just not going to work because you can be the best player in the world in terms of being on the ball, but you've got to have that awareness around you and when to pass it and when not to, because I think he's been caught up far too many times.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment. Only game Winks done well in was the 45 against Saints. That's actually when we're down to 10 men as well. So it just shows Championship level. Yeah, he's got to speed up his passing. I think you're totally right about the awareness. But I think what's frustrating is some of the mistakes that he's made this season, he shouldn't be making them. Like, I think it's fair enough if there's 3-on-1 against you, 4-on-1, and you're under tight space. Like that is difficult to deal with, even if you're a top player. But in those examples, when you're turned and you've got the entire game in front of you, you've just got to speed up your decision making. And I think you're right with that comment. He's used to playing in the league where he had way more space and time so you could think about things. You just gotta, you ain't got time to think in the Premier League sometimes. You just got to do what is your natural kind of thing. So yeah, it's funny that you mentioned transitions. Again, the blue tinted glasses hive mind working in operation. And I would say again that, in my opinion, I think this is one of the biggest disappointments of the season is that, Josh, we are crap on transition. I'm sorry. I've just got to say it. This is not the Leicester of 2015, 2016 that was unbelievable. It's not even a Leicester of last year that was pretty good on transition, even against Premier League teams. So this is a Man United corner. We've dealt with it well. Fair play to us. And now we're going to be on the break. So you've got Khannouss and Soumare, they're on the ball, and Soumare's got it, and we're going to play it forwards. And this is a promising position for us, right? We haven't got too many people on the attack, but in this situation, it's a 3-on-3. Khannouss is going to bend his run out here, and you've got Casey McAteer who's going to join in as well. And this, again, is my slight frustration with Soumare, and why I mentioned how he's just like, he could be like an elite box-to-box player in the Premier League, or he could be Junior Lewis. He's sort of in between those two camps. And it's because here, he's gone for the ball and he's tried to find Khannouss. And I can see why he's tried to do that. But it's for me just completely the wrong pass. Is that if he was aware, maybe to be fair, he hasn't scanned the fact that McAteer is making the run. But if he could play it in there, he'd be an absolute acres. That would drag some of the men wide. It'd probably mean that Khannouss would be able to find himself in space. So instead, he's played this ball, he slipped to his feet, plays it in there, comes to Khannouss, and nothing happens of it. And the thing is that, like, especially in the Premier League, there are many teams who, if this was the opposite situation, would be absolutely bricking it at this point in time, right? And we'd be thinking, like, if that's Bukayo Saka or whatever on the attack and he's got Martin Odegaard playing there, you'd be absolutely terrified. So I think we need to work on it, because if we did, I think we'd score a lot more goals. And yeah, I think, you know, Costa's put it as the transition is doomed with Ayew in his side. Normally, I would agree with you, but in this particular example, Ayew's not even in this attack, right? It's Casey McAteer. I mean, to be fair, maybe your point is why isn't Ayew getting involved, because he doesn't have the pace, which I think would be a fair comment. But yeah, JC, in regards to Soumare, is attacking and defending, let him down. He has all the attributes. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. But I feel like he's not a million miles away, right? And yeah, I think to be fair, Gohan says the Mazraoui tackle was good. It was good, but like I say, it's in these moments that is the difference between, you know, Leicester have gone 2-1 up and they're through to the next round, or Leicester are going out. But let's be honest with you, and fair play to the Man United fan who came in. Let me find him here, but thank you for joining and said that we only got through for a dodgy goal. But we've got to talk about the lino, so we'll come back to this. Here we go. Now, I didn't even show the fact that, in my opinion, I don't even know how this was a free kick, Josh. Like, I thought it was going out of play for a throw-in, but they gave a stupid free kick, whatever. Well, we didn't. He gave it, the ref gave it. I guess he got the message from the Premier League stroke FA that Man United had to go through for viewing figures. So Bruno's pumped it in long. It goes straight to Maguire, and he scores. And do you know what? When this first went in, I was absolutely so pissed, Josh. I was absolutely raging. I was like, Soumare, after all of that, he just completely stood there. He's let his man go. What is wrong with this team? How can they switch off in the last minute of the game? Absolute disgrace. I was about to absolutely kick off a fuss. Then they started showing the replays. And when this angle came on, you know, I mean, I'm not sure about this, but if these three were on and Højlund was there, I think it's still offside at that point in time, right? Because he was kind of interfering with play, getting round to the keeper. I'm not sort of sure about that. But regardless, there's literally 5 players offside there. Maybe that Lenny Yoro could be slightly on. But look at the linesman's position. And you've literally got a frigging line on the pitch.
I know.
That's what I don't understand, because that's literally the defence. This is, you know, like a good way on, you know, to organize the defense is why the lines on the pitch are really useful, because that's how you know that you're all standing in line. You just look at the friggin' line, right? So they're all standing in the line. There's nothing wrong with their positioning. The Man United players all offside. Now, sometimes they can try and time their run, but you can see at the moment of contact, garbage decision, absolutely garbage decision. Cool. Anyway, they get the goal and they win it 2-1. But what I will say, to be fair, is that, look, we definitely didn't deserve to go out in that way, and it should have gone to extra time. But let me ask you, do you think it's actually better for us that we got knocked out and we didn't go to extra time?
Honestly, yeah. I don't think we were going to get. I don't think we're going to score at all. Even in Ruud's post-match, he was talking about the potential penalties. So I think it's pretty certain from our point of view that we were just going to try and sit back and Yeah, look, it's frustrating to go out in that manner. It's frustrating to go out the way we played because I thought we wasn't too bad. But on the grand scale of things, look, the FA Cup isn't our priority at all, is it, this season? I think half an hour is probably not going to do us any benefits, really. Maybe we could have saw some of the youngsters come on, but yeah, I don't think we were. I think if Leicester were, looking on the up towards the end, I'd probably say yes. But second half we offered nothing, so it was only going to go one way, and it's a shame how obviously happened in that way, in that case.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, the United TV, look, to be fair, I think it was easily going United's direction because you can see from the stats. So at half time, you'd had no big chances, but you'd made 4 just with Garnacho alone, to be honest. Look what a big difference he made of the total shots. And yet for Leicester, we'd made 1 big chance in the first half, 0 chances in the second half. That's my point. We offered nothing, as you said. We had 4 shots in the first half. So that means in the second half, we only had 2 shots. So we were never going to get scoring. We completely blunted our attack. So, I kind of agree with this. I thought at the top of the second half, Man United fan and would have won in extra time, but it's an underwhelming way to win. And I'd probably agree with you. I mean, I think, like I said, who knows? Maybe some changes from Leicester could have done something. We'd had 2 more subs, but looking at our bench, I wouldn't have been too excited with what we could have brought on. But look, I think that's something that we've got to talk about is that yeah, well, we do look blunt in an attack, and it's just been a problem all season long. And, yes, of course, the level in Championship to Premier League is much greater, but that's the thing is when you're putting on I don't know, like if I just said to you, Josh, we're going to start this game and our attacking threat is going to be Jordan Ayew, Luke Thomas, Patson Daka, and Bobby de Cordova-Reid. Is that an exciting way to start your Friday night?
It's very. I think the best place to put it is absolutely mid, isn't it? That's the thing that I don't mind. I don't mind Ayew and Daka Reid, but 2 of them at once. I don't mind 1, but 2 for me just seems far too negative. And it's not. I know it's Man United, but it's not Man United, the proper Man United, is it? Like, this is the game we could have easily got at them, and that's the most frustrating thing. You've got Onana in goal, who's not got the track record of being a fantastic goalkeeper. Well, he barely had a shot at him. That's why I thought Bilal shot as well in that chance he had. But that's the thing. We just didn't test the goalkeeper enough. We don't test them enough. And at the back, they look so poor. Because in the first half, it seemed quite simple to get him, really. A few balls and just frustrating, really. But yeah, them players you mentioned in that attack, yeah, it's going to struggle to score goals in the Championship, I'd say, really. So, yeah, I think we really could have done with a winger. But yeah, the transfer winner's obviously gone. But I want to see Steffi back in the side, really. I know he hasn't been great, but at least he's the type of player who can stay in line, try and beat his man. I know he has to do 20 steppos before he does anything, but yeah, we're just missing spark, aren't we?
Yeah, well, the pace on transition too. United TV, look, drop us a line on Twitter because we're playing you guys again for the 4th time this season. So we could do a match preview or something. We'll be happy to do that. But yeah, I kind of think that that's something that's really lacking this season, is spark. I really feel really angry about it, to be honest, because it's like, that summer transfer business just really set us up badly. It's like, if you're not going to sign, I mean, literally, what did they tell the scouting department? Because I know that last year, Enzo definitely told the scouts, he goes, I need you to find me wingers who are fast and can beat a man one-on-one. He even said, Enzo, that he didn't know who Fatawu was, that Martin Glover found him and he's everything that he wanted. He could beat the player one-on-one and he could develop him. Unless I think even Stevie Wonder can see that, Jordan Ayew and Bobby Reid are not fast players. I think, to be fair, maybe they've been signed more to be that kind of player that's supposed to be the 10 that drifts out to the right hand side. But then why didn't we sign any wingers at all? It doesn't make sense. So you find 4 players and not one of them. Just literally just say in the summer, find me one player who's fast and can dribble and can finish, right? They could be a bit crap. Yeah, and we didn't get him in the transfer window either. Very, very frustrating for me. So I'll give you my match thoughts. So I actually thought, to be honest with you, Josh, that overall we were better than expected because I thought we were going to lose pretty comfortably given our previous results. So I think for the first 60 minutes, i.e. when Ndidi was around, we were all right. Just want to say that the boss man Locks has just announced it's a 15k sub giveaway. So some of you about to become members, good luck to you there. Hopefully you've got the same amount of luck as Bobby Reid did for that first goal. Look, the return of Mads Hermansen and Ndidi massively improves the team. In fact, I would go as far as saying that I think we still will go down, to be honest with you. But with those 2 in the team, I can see us getting points. But without them, I think we've got no hope. Yeah, it's funny how Ndidi was only actually on for 57 minutes, believe it or not. But yeah, it was like 2 different teams out there with him on. The spine of Hermansen, I think Okoli as well, got to shout him out. Ndidi, El Khannouss, maybe Vardy, maybe it's Daka, probably Vardy. That might offer a glimmer of hope. this still feels to me like it hasn't got enough, well, that's the spine, that's good, but I think you need the width, which we don't have, or something to think about. I personally think that Daka stretched the game well and offered things that Vardy didn't, but without pace on the wings to support him, he got isolated. And look at that break there in the second half. In fact, that break actually I have to think about, because Daka did come off. I'm not sure if he was on or not, but that's another example. If you've got fast players on the break, you could score. Harry Winks, he was awful, Josh, when he came on, and it's his lack of physicality, and it's been heavily exposed this season. That is a big problem. I don't know what we're going to do next season. I mean, if we're in a championship, sure, but he's going to be on expensive wages. But I don't know what Premier League team's going to take him on. Looking at him there, don't even get me started on Oliver Skip. And yeah, look, despite initially setting up to cover James Justin, ultimately we've been beaten yet again by a team that's gone for a 2v1 on him. And that is my overriding thought. I've been saying it again. It's like, look, it doesn't really matter in football what system you use, right? If your system works, if it's winning you games, but our system isn't working. And it isn't winning us games. And Steve Cooper used it. And now Ruud van Nistelrooy is using it. And we didn't use that system last year. In fact, this is the first season we've ever tried to play this way. And it's not working. So coming back to something that Gohan posted earlier in the week, earlier in the stream. Look, I don't know if something like this would or wouldn't work. But a lot of people have been talking about trying to use basically Amarim's system. Oliver Glasner uses it as well. It's the 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, however you want to call it. But potentially, if we went this way, you could use wing backs instead of wingers. So you could use Victor Christensen, you could use James Justin. I've put Koulibaly in here, but you could have Justin. I would say actually that I was thinking about this in the past of maybe even having Justin as the right centre back to give you more pace. But I will say that I think what I've noticed is that if you play wing backs or you play the system that we played in this game with Ruud, is that I think that your fullbacks are doing so much work that they actually can't last 90 minutes. And so I think you need to have options for them. And I actually wonder if that's the reason that we signed Koulibaly. So maybe we were all thinking that he's going to be the starter. But actually what Ruud might be thinking is that Justin's going to play, but he's going to play 60 minutes and then he gets gassed. Because to be honest with you, one of the reasons why he was getting troubled by Garnacho is he's already played a half of football. So if the idea is that when he gets gassed, we can change him and put someone else on. Although that said, he put Koulibaly on the left-hand side. So I don't know. Maybe it's because he was supposed to be the one that was attacking and joining attack. Something I have to see. But look, if we did play this system, the other big thing is that I suppose if you did have Vestergaard in the team, well, because you've got three people at the back, you could have two faster players around him. So he's still there to play his passes and you've got some pace at the back. Maybe some people would say we shouldn't have Yannick in the team at all. I can buy that argument for what it's worth. But out of all our defenders, Connor Cody, slow. Yannick Vestergaard, slow. Wout Faes isn't that slow, but it's got a mistake in him. Nelson's not here anymore. So you don't really have many options, right? So don't know what to say. And look, I think the big thing is if you did play this system, I think it would suit Buonanotte a lot better. And you'd have these two that would be able to support him. And it would mean hopefully the end of Ayew. I don't think that you necessarily have to have him or Bobby Reed. Ndidi would miss out. But look, to be honest with you, you could still put them on as options. I don't know. Do I think we'll go with this system? Absolutely not. I do think I've actually just wasted the last 5 minutes of everyone's life by going for a system that I don't think we'll ever see this season. But look, as I say, I'm not a fan of the system that we played. So I just wonder about you. What do you think about, if you have, you're playing Football Manager, you've just loaded up Leicester in the quagmire is what I've called the save game file. You've got 14 games go in the Premier League. This is your squad. Yeah. What would you do to get us out of it, Josh? Other than probably save scum to make sure that you win every game.
Sign a load of players if we could, but no, I don't think that's actually too bad. It's like months ago we were doing. I think it was me, you, Ragsy, and Locks did this thing where we were coming up with some random formations, and I think me and Ragsy did something kind of similar. I know Locks was putting Skip at left back in Everton or something stupid like that, but I don't think that's too bad. I don't think we'll use it, just like you said, but in terms of getting the best out of the squad as a whole. Especially, like I look at the likes of Bilal and Buonanotte, especially. I think Buonanotte just wasted from the right hand side coming in, and obviously from there he's going to be out on the wide a tiny bit. But coming inside, I think him and Bilal could work nicely together. Defensively, look, there'll definitely be gaps there, but we have gaps right now, so I don't really see much problem with trying something different. And can it get any worse? Probably not. So. Why not?
Be careful what you wish for there, Josh. You ever seen that famous one with Mick McCarthy and they go, it can't get any worse, can it? And it goes, it can. So,
it gets worse will probably end up going down, and we'll probably only go down anyway. So I think that's the way I want to look at it. But yeah, I don't mind it, to be fair. I think defensively, I know Vestergaard's been poor this season, but if you have three sensible, if you play in terms of a three, you've got two next to him, he offers him a bit more cover, especially in terms of his pace as well. So, and it can potentially allow the likes of White to progress forward. He does like that run now and again as well. So, yeah, I don't mind it at all. As long as we keep the core of Soumare and Ndidi midfield and Bilal, I think we are going to be on to potentially, if we're going to get some positives from this season, that's the way to do it. So, but it all comes down to that spine, really.
Oh, Vestergaard. Sorry, I've been told by Andreas who've got to pronounce it correctly. And Luke Thomas, thank you for joining the stream. You've become a member for staying on the pitch for 60 minutes, but also you won the 15k subs giveaway from Locks. You must have been one of the winners, so congratulations to you. Sean says we already have issues with width, and I'll give you that. I think if we did go for this system, but I don't think we've got width now anyway, to be honest with you. I think we've been lacking it all season. I genuinely feel that, like, when Fatawu got injured, you could argue that was the end of our season, because our whole game last season was, making sure that we isolated one of those wingers one-on-one with the defender and they could beat them. We just don't do that this season. Anyway, it is what it is. So look, just actually wanted to say, firstly, thank you so much to Josh for joining today. If you haven't already, guys, please go to his channel, Sportser. Does some of the best vlogs on the channel. I'm a big fan. Some of them I do feel a bit sorry though. A lot of them are like 6 straight defeats for Leicester, but occasionally you do get some like the absolute limbs. And then my favorite one, I'm still saying, is the one where Jordan Ayew scores the winner. Absolutely brilliant one. But yeah, make sure you give him some love. He's a big part of, we want to transfer him in, hopefully will in the future, but always a pleasure having you with us, Josh. Also, just wanted to say what's coming up on the channel. Well, tomorrow, we've got a very interesting show to celebrate the 15k subs. We're having an evening with Ian Hume. Remember him? If you guys were part of the deadly days when we were in the championship and we were struggling, fair play to him. He was one of our strikers back in time, scored some great goals. A really nice one against Watford comes to mind. So we're going to be talking to him on the channel, asking about his time with Leicester, asking about what he thinks about our current situation. And it'll be good to get the perspective of a former pro on that. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like the stream. Subscribe if you haven't already. Put in your comments what you thought. You might have seen today, I'll try to go a bit more Sky Sports with some of the circles and arrows. We're still working on those graphics, but let us know. Do you think that's good or bad? We always get fed up as Leicester fans that, what happens after the game on ITV, they'll spend 10 seconds talking about Leicester City. I don't know if you even saw, they even just said, well, sometimes those decisions go for you, sometimes they go against you. And then they talked all about Man United, and I was like, come on. That's like one of the most egregious decisions ever seen in football, and you won't even give it a minute. So that's one of the reasons why this channel exists, because we want to give you, the fans, something where you actually get some decent analysis. So thanks again. Find Josh over at Sportser, give him a like and subscribe. He deserves it. And thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure. Hopefully we see you again in the future. And see you tomorrow on Blue Tinted Glasses. Bye-bye.